Hello and welcome to Ask the Icon, a live web series for the working professionals. I am Kaushik Majumder, author and workplace challenge consultant. Needless to say, the impact of the pandemic all over the world has pushed us into a time which is unprecedented, full of uncertainty. And if you are a working professional, I'm sure you are also concerned like me. We have a lot of questions with very little clarity, very few answers, and that's exactly what we intend to accomplish on every episode of Ask the Icon, which is to help you find answers to your questions. On every episode of Ask the Icon, a guest icon from Indian INC would join us live on Facebook and would address your questions. Yes, today we are having some issues with the Facebook, but that's what our plan is, to have it on live Facebook. So, without much ado, I would like to introduce you to today's guest icon, a towering influencer, an astounding leader with stupendous body of work, the Director and Chief Human Resource Officer of Times of India Group, Amit Das. So thank you very much, Amit, for joining me on Ask the Icon. It's an honor, not just for me, but also for all the viewers who have seen you in conference or seminars or have radio interviews on various newspapers. So today they're watching you on live, yes, taking their questions. So thank you very much. Your opening comments, please, Amit.
Thank you, Kaushik. Thanks for inviting me to this Facebook live session. And I would love to interact with all our viewers who are watching us live. And I would be delighted to answer any queries, any clarifications that I would be required to share with all of you. And at the outset, let me wish each one of you who's watching this Facebook live session all the best in terms of your health and safety, because these are not usual times. These are very, very unusual times. And please take care of yourself and all your family members. Over to you, Kaushik.
Thank you very much, Amit. Thank you very much indeed. So just before we get into the Ask the Icon section, the exact section, just to let you know that those of you who have read my book, The Process Pro, they already know. But those of you who have not yet read it, Amit has enriched the Process Pro with his great insights on process and systems in corporates. So if you are yet to get your copy, so it will be available on Amazon. So please book it after the launch. So thank you very much. So Amit, on this show, I'm going to ask you questions which I have viewers across industries, they're working professionals. Okay, so with your permission, should we proceed with Ask the Icon, please?
Sure, please go ahead.
Thank you very much. So Amit, the first question, is from my side. Yes, I actually got this question. It's a bit long. So the question is, traditionally in India, outside IT industry, not many industries are matured enough in terms of systems and process to adapt the work from home concept. Personally, as a former working professional, having spent 2.5 decades in IT industry, I always felt I am more productive while I'm working from office than working from home because of overwhelming home comfort. Yeah, now with the current crisis, do you think perspectives of both sides, employers and employees, have changed? Do you see work from home concept would be adapted by employers more and more as a new norm across the board? Or do you think things would be back to the traditional ways once the crisis ends? And also, how do you see employees are coping up with the idea while, especially those who have less experience, working from home with the working from home concept? So over to you, Amit, please.
Sure, Kaushik. So at the outset, let me tell you that, as you rightly mentioned, that it's not new for organizations, specifically IT companies and IT organizations, to have this concept of work from home. It is there for a lot of a few decades, I would say.
Right.
I think any kind of disruption that we are seeing today is only something which helps us accelerate some of the changes. Mm-hmm. For example, when you are talking about something like work from home. So I think while global organizations have been always virtually connected, and especially when it comes to connecting their workforce, diverse workforce across diverse geographies, but what this kind of disruption, what we are seeing today is a kind of unprecedented, at least in my career of last 30 years, I have not seen an in disruption to this kind of a intensity. While we have been talking about the VUCA being the new normal for some time now, but something like this has never been, I think, anticipated by the business world.
Absolutely.
So the entire global economy and the world of business is trying to cope up with this kind of disruption that the COVID-19 pandemic has, hit us. But having said that, I think when it comes to the work, I would look at it much more holistically. It is work, workforce, and workplace. All three of it has to change in tandem or have to transform together to make this new world of business that we are talking about. So one cannot change while the other remains constant. So what is important is to have a balance between the three W's that I spoke about: work, workforce, and workplace. You can't transform your workplace if your work does not allow you to do so. Or if you don't build capability in your workforce, you cannot have a productive workplace.
Mm-hmm.
Having said that, I think your work has to be enabled by the workplace, and that is able to connect a digital and diverse workforce.
Yeah.
So in my mind, going forward, the workplace has to be replaced by my space, which will be any space that allows you with the right kind of 24/7 connectivity, interconnectedness, and you can start plugging and playing at the comfort of any place that you want to. So whether it is called hot desking or breakout areas or any kind of dimensions that you want to add when it comes to the workspace. So I think we are at a time when talent can exist irrespective of time and space, and talent is an integrated, I would say, connected entity, which has no linkage with the space that he or she operates from.
Okay.
I think other thing which I'm seeing, which is going to come in, is the work schedule flexibility more than the workplace flexibility. And what I mean by that is that the complete ownership of the work schedule has to be taken by the employee himself or herself. The work schedule is not to be curated by the manager or the leader, but it is to be managed in a collaborative manner amongst the employees to ensure that the deliverables or any project that they are working on together has to be met in their own time, own space, and in a completely interconnected, collaborative, and agile manner.
Yep. Okay. So workforce, and workplace, right? These three things you mentioned. Second question is from Mainak Sen. So when I talked about your body of work, Amit, you have worked on, I think you started with automobiles, then you moved on to telecommunications, media, and all sorts of industries. So, you also had your experience in insurance as well. So the next question is, few industries, including media, hospitality, pharma, entertainment, insurance, which were earlier were known to be recession-proof. However, what we see now, employees from even these industries are staring at job loss. They are also feel the insecurity. So in private sector, which are the industries or right areas one should look for when it comes to looking for jobs, in your opinion, which are secured? So this question is asked by Mainak Sen. So your answer, please, Amit.
So as I mentioned before, Kaushik, that the current crisis that we're witnessing is very unexpected and unprecedented. Yeah. So I think while the demand and supply curve would be varying across sectors, but I think it's very difficult, and it's a I would say kind of an impossible task any business leader to really protect. These are the industries, and that's the kind of demand and supply curve which we'll see in the 30, 60, 90 days time. The reason I'm saying that is this kind of unusual times, leader to predict it with certainty that this is how my sector or my demand for my product or services will behave in the next 3 to 6 months time. But having said that, I think the job security is industry agnostic. So employees should not, in my opinion, think of job security from an industry-specific mindset.
True.
What they should be doing is they have to demonstrate the agility, and at the same time they must be have the mindset to constantly change and embrace this disruption and recreate their mindset to manage this kind of uncertainty and have a high degree of tolerance to the time that will be witnessing in the next couple of months' time or in a year's time. I think that is what is more important. While I can tell you that certain industries like aviation, hospitality, media, and entertainment, they are going through certain pressure. They are going through more disruptions maybe than the others. But how they will bounce back, or other industries will behave in terms of their own demand and supply, because that also is dependent on the nature of the stage at which their business is in terms of the life cycle. For example, I can tell you in the last 2003 SARS, post that and that kind of a disruption which hit the entire world, we found a company like Alibaba, for example, in China. Yes. They had shown huge amount of upside in their top line, and their market cap just soared. So that does not mean that e-commerce would just flourish or behave differently or in a similar manner after this kind of a crisis. Yeah. What I'm trying to say is, in a VUCA world of today, searching for security and not being agile and adapting to the change will lead to a catastrophe both for the organization and for the individual. So we need to constantly be on our feet, and we need to have that agility to develop that anti-fragility in us.
Yeah, so it's about looking inwards, and sort of adapting the new situations rather than expecting, from the industry or depending on the industry. So the third question is from Nishit Tomar. How do you see impact on leadership strategies in emerging situations? There is a school of thought that leadership without proximity is not much effective. So how do you look at it?
So I'll go back to what I earlier said, that global organization has been managing diverse, geographically spread, located workforce for a long time. So leaders are operating from different places where their team members have been geographically spread. Irrespective of their physical proximity, they have been managing those kind of organizations, and they have been delivering consistently and driving organizational success. So it is not about physical proximity. I think it is more about the functional proximity that we should be having in mind. But what do I mean by functional proximity? It is a collaborativeness that you need to have across the functions, across businesses within the organization, which needs to basically work in tandem and in the right way to manage this kind of interconnected world that we are in today. So I think more and more the physical proximity will take a backseat and will be having less impact in the way we manage the business going forward. But having said that, some of the common leadership traits, since it's being asked, I would say the leadership of today has to demonstrate not only agility and creativity, they have to demonstrate humility, they have to demonstrate adaptability, they have to have the right empathy for the organization, and they have to have the right clear vision so that they can drive the organization and align the organization with the overall purpose of the organization, which creates an engaged workforce, and that would help the organization to drive their overarching objectives and business success more than physical proximity.
Okay, so it's more than physical proximity, it's about functional proximity, which you mentioned, right? So, okay, the fourth is from Amit Sangvi, which is an interesting question. Yeah. So going forward, do you see the relationship between an employer and employee would be like a customer and service provider, like outsourcing the job to the employees, understanding the requirement and deliver? How do you see it, Amit?
See, we have been talking about employees being our internal customer for quite some time.
Okay.
While we have external customers in the form of consumers of the product and services, but always we have looked at employees as our internal customers. And the advantage of doing that is that we use the same or apply the same mechanics that the marketing function has been applying for their external customers or consumers that we need to do for our internal customers or our employees. What do I mean by that? The same experience that we need to create for our external customer is nothing different from the experience that we need to create for our offerings within the organization for our internal customers, which are our employees. So we have to manage every life cycle touch point of our employees right from the time he is joining the organization, or even before that he's looking at the organization from outside. How do we create a strong value proposition for our employer branding? Okay, and then the person joins the organization, goes through the 30, 60, 90 days time, goes through various developmental journeys, goes through the assessment mechanism, performance management, and the entire journey that he or she goes through has to be managed and provided with the right experience around these touch points. And that's where we create the right talent environment for people to be retained, and they walk their extra mile and apply their discretionary thinking to over-deliver than their call of duty. So I think it's a mutual reliance between the employer and employee that needs to be looked at when we are looking at this kind of a relationship between the employer and employee. Specifically in a gig economy, what we are seeing today, where the workforce is getting flooded by the millennials, who comes with a very, very different mindset, workplace priorities, and thinking, which is very different from the Gen X that we are, or which we used to have in the industrial, when we started our journey in the industrial era and moved to a technology and information era. So I think it's a huge transformation that we are seeing in the workplace. And why I mentioned about it is that the way we look at the relationship is very, very different from what it used to be maybe a couple of decades back. So yes, there has to be a full mutual reliance between the employer and employee, and each one needs to look at it as a kind of an arrangement, as a kind of a mutual, beneficial, symbiotic relationship, without saying that the organization owns certain things. I'm saying it has to be co-owned and co-created when it comes to the various deliverables and the experience that we want to provide to our employees at the workplace. And today we are looking at hyper personalization, hyper customization, where every employee's need has to be looked at, and you have to walk backward and take the help of the right technology to deliver that experience and what that want for that employee is, instead of saying that one size fits all, what you used to have in the past.
Yeah, exactly. So the next question is kind of linked to that earlier question. Team building activities are part of an organization culture. Now, with employees are anticipated to be working from home more and more, how do you see team building culture is shaping up in this new environment?
I think we are taking advantage of the collaborative technology and the social enterprise tools that we have at our disposal today. Like in the past, where we did not have this kind of advanced technological state-of-the-art, social enterprise tools. We had to depend on physical proximity for various engagement activities and initiatives that HR used to drive in the organization. But today, thanks to the technology, we are able to connect the organization digitally and create an engagement which is much, I would say, effective, more effective than what it used to be in the past. And why am I saying it's more effective? Because here is an opportunity for us to customize my engagement offerings based on the need of that individual.
Yeah.
So it's not that be it any kind of learning, initiatives, be it kind of engagement initiatives, be it any kind of, say, for example, social initiatives that the employee needs to get associated with. We can customize the offering based on the individual need and what actually drives that individual. Say, for example, in our organization, we focused on giving the employees a sense of belongingness and togetherness through various focused virtual campaigns. And especially in the last 30 to 45 days, we have seen huge traction in all these virtual engagement programs. And we have been able to keep track of those. We have been able to use or capture a lot of data about the employees in terms of their behaviors, in terms of their actions, which would help us to further customize our interventions going forward. So an important factor that has helped us in our Times Group too is to actually help us in having this kind of a collaborative engagement, which is a direct result of this cohesiveness and the teamwork that we have seen in the last 30 to 45 days. And that has been possible because of this collaborative technology that we have been deploying very, very rigorously. And we have invested in this technology much ahead of times.
Okay, so Amit, just I will quickly add a small bit of my question because I'm being curious here. You mentioned about the taking advantage of technology and collaborative way of working. So how do you see things are same before we gotten into this pandemic and the eventual whatever is happening right now, and we are adapting these new technologies, working from home right now, how the situation is, and if you compare that with before the situation before, do you see the same outcome, same kind of productivity, same way things are happening? What is your view?
Yeah, very pertinent question, Kaushik. See, I was going through a recent research report of one of the consulting organizations saying that actually the productivity in a virtual environment has dropped by 25% vis-a-vis when it used to be in a people used to work in a physical environment. That was quite a revelation for me, I would say. Having said that, it also says that when people are taking those calls, whether it's Zoom call or Microsoft Team calls or any other virtual, they're interacting on a virtual medium and they're spending a lot of time on the virtual screen, they're feeling, I would say, high degree of fatigue at the end of the day. And it leaves them with a sense that they must be working very hard and their productivity is very high. But in reality, the research report is showing that the productivity is actually dropping by 25%. That's a revelation for me. And that may be the reason because people are not used to spending time through a virtual medium for a prolonged period of time. And that might be resulting in that kind of a fatigue. But having said that, when we first moved seamlessly from a physical working arrangement to a work from home arrangement, I found a lot of positiveness in the voice of the employees or the opinions of the employees that they will get a lot of additional time which they will save from the commuting, and especially in a city like Mumbai where people spend enormous amount of time in commuting to the workplace from home. They thought that they will get that additional time to manage not only their home space but also use that time to productively use for their work requirement as well.
Yeah.
But in reality, this is what I mentioned is what the research is saying. But what we also need to keep in mind is that we are all social elements. Okay, we have the need to also have those social proximity and bonding and meeting and interact with each other to actually help us fire certain hormones from our brain, especially that hormone called oxytocin, which gets fired whenever we are socially engaging with each other. I think we need to also create an employment, I would say, bonding and sense of belongingness through certain human physical interactions where we need to see, feel, smell the workplace. For example, we are all used to taking those coffee breaks. We are all used to taking those cafeteria breaks and walk across to each other outside our workstation and interact. Those are the things which is missing currently or in the current context. I think that is also taking a toll on the mental, I would say, the anxiety level of the individuals. So while it has created certain mental anxiety, but it has also created certain, I would say, workplace urgency as well, which in a way, organizations like us are trying to capitalize on that to actually help us accelerate that change of mindset, which will actually move us from a digital workplace to digital workforce.
Okay.
There's a big difference. While the digital workplace has always been there for long time, but the digitalness in their mind, the digital savviness, to the push up that digital dexterity in the organization is something which is helping us in a situation like this.
Absolutely. So so I've forgotten to mention the name of the last question. The person who was asked was Anil Shah. Yeah, the number 6, the question number 6 is asked by Ashwin Jadhav. There are many organizations decided to cut down or stop campus recruitment. Another very emotional topic for me. Fresher intake this year. What would be your suggestion to the freshers who see their career is in jeopardy even before it has taken off? Over to you, Amit.
So unfortunately, yes, I'm aware through our CHRO community that a lot of organizations have had to take this difficult decision of either pulling out of the offers that they have rolled out in the campuses, or deferring some of the joinings and things like that. But we as an organization, let me tell you that we have stayed committed to all our campus offers. In fact, even after we moved to a virtual way of working, as we speak, 90% of our organization is working away from their workplace. It is not necessary that all of them are working from home, because we are in an industry where we are an essential service. You know that we need to ensure that our product, which is the newspaper, has to reach the doorstep of the reader every day in the morning at the predefined hour. So the entire, the operation has to work backwards to ensure that we make that happen. For that, we cannot allow 90% of the organization to work from home. So we have a hybrid kind of a working arrangement as of now. But yes, we have stayed to our commitment. We have allowed all our summer interns who are offered from the premier campuses, they have joined. But we have managed it very, very seamlessly in a virtual environment, right from the joining, induction, allocation of projects. In fact, we came up with a guideline for the mentors to equip them and enhance their capability to manage the mentoring of the projects that are assigned, or the business life projects that have been assigned to the trainees, summer interns, in a virtual environment. So we have stayed on to that. My suggestion, advice to all of you who might be, at the receiving end of such, difficult decision by some organizations, I would say that you be agile, observe the new trends in the way of working, practice all the new technological tools that are emerging, look for all the courses and the online, offerings in your particular areas or subject areas, which might help you to build your skills further. Keep building your network, and most importantly, never stop learning to ensure you are future ready. You have to make yourself future ready.
Yes. Okay, so the seventh question is by Invin E. Joel. How would the HR, it's a HR related question, so how would the HR align themselves to ensure the human touch is being brought back in the profession? First, do you see that happening, generally, not in your workplace, of course, I'm sure, of which you have just mentioned, with the kind of reputation you command, but outside your industry, or do you see that's happening, that missing human touch within the HR community? And the question is, how would the HR align themselves to ensure that human touch is being brought back in the profession? Amit, to you, please.
Yeah, I presume that this question is coming out of the fact that more and more organizations are becoming technologically networked, and people are working away from each other. And that's where the challenge lies, in terms of how do I ensure that the organization is connected, engaged, collaborate with each other to drive the various business deliverables. But HR as a function, I would say more and more we need to ensure that we drive the right kind of collaborativeness between man and machine. So we will see that a lot of those roles, repetitive transactional activities will be taken over by technology. And that's where I think the human beings need to coexist with the technology. And HR need to have the right capability to drive that collaborative environment. So we need to ensure that we are able to foresee some of these scenarios that will come in future at workplace, where machine and man work together, and we need to relook and recreate the productivity metrics itself to ensure that we are getting the right outcome. So the success of HR function is measured by how much value we can create for the business, right? So the business stakeholders always look up to us as HR professionals to bring that significant expertise that can help them understand the most critical element, which is the human capital. So HR as a function is always and will always be at the forefront of managing such disruptions that we might be going through in the organization. And so I think we have to ensure that we keep making the organization future ready, and bring in the right degree of agility in the organization to manage any future disruptions that we might be hit in future. Having said that, I think I mentioned about the 3 Ws that we need to look at: work, workplace, and
Workforce.
workforce, which continuously have to happen simultaneously in terms of making them ready for the future organization. We need to constantly leverage the technology to drive both employee experience and productivity. We need to create the future readiness of the talent that we have by bringing in the right competencies, be it empathy, be it decisiveness, be it innovation, creativity, the digital savviness, the digital thinking prowess. How do we make the organization think critically? The critical thinking element is very important, and the design thinking element, where I need to start with the need in mind, walk backwards to work on prototypes and come back with a solutioning mindset than saying that, we are trying to do it on a piecemeal basis. That will not work anymore. So I think the future organizational capability would lie in to what extent we can create a design thinking mindset in the organization, to what extent we can create a kind of a pool of creative disruptors in the organization, to what extent we can make the organization more agile to enhance its anti-fragility. I think that is more important. And above all this, I think we need to have a robust communication mechanism, because the worst thing that can happen in any organization is when we are silent to our customers or stakeholders. So we need to have the right robust communication strategy to drive that employee alignment with the overall organizational purpose. And we have to manage that in an extremely transparent and authentic manner. I think authenticity is the key. Authentic and bold leadership, coupled with the design thinking mindset and that humility that I spoke earlier, will be the success for future.
Okay, so just quickly add to that, Amit, from my side, is that a question quickly, is that you talked about the taking technical advantage, you talked about the robust communication strategy, you talked about 3 Ws. Now, looking at the new circumstances and the emerging scenarios, do you see the HR's roles is getting changed? Because we talk about HR, we talk about personal touch, we talk about empathy, which you have just mentioned. Now, in a technologically savvy, the way we'll be working going forwards, do you see that's changing? How do you look at it?
As I mentioned before, so HR's role has been changing very, very rapidly in the last few decades. We all know that HR as a function started as a kind of an administrative function. From there, we moved to a kind of a business partnering function. From there, we moved to a kind of a business enabling function. And now we are talking about a value creating function. So that's the journey that we have gone through. And as I mentioned before, we will be perceived as a value creator when we act like an enterprise leader more than an HR leader. The more and more we have to shift the ownership of the people leadership to the business managers. And that transition, if we have to put our hand on our heart, is something that we have to do it very, very honestly. And we have to let go of a lot of those so-called people processes and people interventions, which we inherently have been owning it, and we would like to own it going forward. And that's the big challenge. And that's the big step forward when we start letting go to make this happen in a seamless manner. And we take charge of certain strategic enterprise elements, which creates disproportionate value for the organization.
Right. So, Amit, one question which is kind of related to this topic, HR topic, which is asked by Nina Power. Her question is, how should the HR deal with employees, a decent performer who is being made redundant due to cost cutting or downsizing the organization? So I think the keyword is a decent performer, not a poor performer. So how do you see people doing that from HR?
See, first of all, whether you call it downsizing or right sizing or rationalization, everything has to happen with the business context in mind. You can't just paint everything with the same brush. Every business has its, based on which point of life cycle they are in today, and the current and their own context, they have to take their decisions. Okay, so when it comes to the cost, yes, cost management is important. We cannot take our eyeball from the cost management. But I think it has to be contextualized. It has to be understood in the right manner. It is not that any organization would like to, right size or rationalize the organization out of just, a nice thing to do. I'm yet to come across any organization that has adopted any kind of an approach like that. But having said that, I think it's the disruptive environment that we are in, we need to look at it with much closure, with a closure, and use the lens on in terms of the cost. Every organization is supposed to do that. An HR function in such a scenario has to actually adopt a dual responsibility of not only being the business value creator or a business partner, but they have to also be the employee champion to ensure that that ideal organization structure, we have the optimized manpower or the workforce planning to take care of my business deliverables, instead of saying that we have to just mindlessly go in for any kind of right sizing activities. And that has to be, again, to reinforce my earlier what I said, that has to be managed with the right communication, connect, and the authenticity with which we manage this kind of a transformation or any kind of organizational restructuring exercise.
True. So the question, next question, I believe I can ask one more question, looking at the clock. The next question has come from Ahmed Khan, which is, I'm from IT with 5 years of experience. In our organization, whether I would get promotion or increment is decided by my boss. Yes, that's true. And in this situation, personal equation plays a bigger role than performance. I'm a proven performer, appreciated by customer. However, I'm not in my boss's books for whatever reason. Now, how can I deal with the situation that would help my career, that would not jeopardize my career without actually antagonize my boss? How can I deal with it? So that's the question which has come from Ahmed Khan. Please, Amit.
See, before I respond to this question, Kaushik, I think at times I get a bit, I would say, curious to know exactly how we look at a promotion. And it's what promotion is basically perceived differently in different parts of the globe. Because having played global roles across geographies and having managed large, diverse workforce across continents, I've seen that this notion of promotion and the way the promotion is perceived or the career progression is perceived is varying quite a degree when it comes to geography to geography. Specifically in India, at times I find that people actually confuse promotion or career growth with a change of title. And actually, if you have to look at it, promotion is something where you are promoted to play a higher role, of a higher degree, of a very higher degree of competence is required from that role. It has nothing to do with a change of title. Okay, so we have to be very careful when you are looking at or talking about promotion from that lens. Having said that, when you are having a performance management process, which I'm sure most of the organizations have quite a robust performance management process, you always have an opportunity to have that performance conversation, having the performance feedback throughout the year, if not throughout the year, at least half yearly or annually. And you always have that opportunity and freedom to move up to the next skip level manager, where you can have that dialogue, because every performance management process has an appraiser and a reviewer as well, who's the appraiser's boss. So you can always have the opportunity to go to the next skip level manager and have that conversation and share your worry or anything that you are not happy with your conversation with your immediate manager.
Yep, true. So I have few more questions, but looking at the clock, I don't think we have much time because of the delay, because of whatever issues we faced, technical issues. So those are the questions I have, and thank you very much, Amit. It's been wonderful, and I'm sure viewers, you have found the answers immensely helpful, because I have. Trust me, I have. And now you know the drill. Please don't forget to hit the like and share button to sort of make it reach more and more people. And also please use the comment section for any suggestion, comments, and any questions that you have for our guest icons. And yes, I haven't forgotten my promise. The special gift for the best question of the week. So Amit, would you please tell us the best questions or the most innovative questions or the most interesting question that you have been asked today, in your opinion, please?
See, that's a very difficult choice for me because I don't remember all the questions in that order that you have told me.
True.
I would leave it to you, Kaushik, because you have been moderating the session. So you have all the questions with you because I can't see the questions. I can't, I've just heard it from you. So
Perfect.
you can always go ahead and choose it on my behalf. I'm.
Thank you very much. I'll do that. So I'll choose one and I'll send a gift. I'll mail you the gift. So thank you very much, Amit. Any closing comments from your side, Amit, please?
Yeah, I think these are unusual times that all of us are going through, and that requires unusual wisdom. And don't get panicked. Keep learning, and the learning agility that you need to invest in yourself, and that requires a change of mindset. And I would like to talk about what Alvin Toffler have said quite some time back, saying the illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who can't read and write, but will be those who can't learn, unlearn, and relearn. True. I think that's very, very powerful statement that he has made. And I strongly believe it personally, that you have to constantly fuel your learning appetite, keep asking questions, have your curiosity intact, and that's the only way you can keep learning, unlearning, and relearning. And that's the fuel I would use for any budding professionals or any managers that we have in the industry. And that's the only way you can invest in your future readiness when it comes to business success. Thank you. All the best.
So learn, unlearn, and relearn. So those who have missed the interview live can watch the full interview. Of course, we are having, due to this problems, we can go live. So I'm going to put it on Facebook and my YouTube channel, The Process Pro, Kaushik Majumder. I'm looking forward to see you on my next video with another icon, with another interesting perspective, and lots of learning like today we had. Till then, with the icon, Amit Das, this is Kaushik Majumder signing off. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.